Crisis. Thousands of migrant children being sold into slavery with the U.S. government as the middleman. You don't hear. I mean, the Biden administration is literally trafficking children. You don't hear anything from the left talking about this. They're totally silent on it. And I take the silence as complicity because they know this is happening. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button, share this out. Um, Also, subscribe if you're not already a subscriber and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon where I talk about things I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my merch store where I have I Will Not Comply t-shirts as well. So check those out as well. All right, let's talk about this news. According to a whistleblower who worked for the Department of Health and Human Services, the United States government has become a middleman in the multi-billion-dollar human trafficking industry at the border. And criminals are using the Biden administration's politically motivated policies to fill the quotas of slaves who are then put to work in slaughterhouses, factories, and restaurants to pay off their debts to the smugglers who brought them across the border. Quote, I thought I was going to help place children in loving homes. Instead, I discovered that children are being trafficked through a sophisticated network that begins with being recruited in their home country, smuggled to the U.S. border, and ends with ORR. That's the Office of Refugee Resettlement. Delivers a child to a sponsor. Some sponsors are criminals and traffickers and members of transnational criminal organizations. Some sponsors view children as commodities and assets to be used for earning income. This is why we are witnessing an explosion of labor trafficking. Whistleblower Tara Lee Rodas' written remarks claim. Understand that the process of vetting sponsors for these children radically changed in February 2021, shortly after Biden took office. Of course, the problem was one of optics. Unaccompanied minor children were showing up at the border in record numbers, and the facilities just weren't there to care for them. Biden's solution was catastrophic for the children. Quote, they have been carelessly funneled through the custody of the U.S. government agencies and contractors and handed off to very lightly vetted sponsors who were usually also here illegally in our communities without regard to their safety and well-being. Jessica Vaughn, Director of Policy Studies at the Center of Immigration Studies, will testify. There is no question that the system for processing minors who cross illegally is dysfunctional and has been for some time and needs to be fixed. The reason for the poor or non existent vetting of sponsors was pure politics. The administration was terrified about the potential political fallout from having thousands of children appear on the news being held in filthy conditions, including some in cages. That is what happened when the Trump administration was faced with a similar crisis. But Biden cared more about his political standing than the health and safety of children. And now tens of thousands of them are slaving away for little or no pay, and the U.S. government is feeding the children a labor pipeline for the cartels. Now, the Federalist reported some HHS employees soon learned that, quote, children are being released to adults who had lied about their identities or who had planned to exploit them, the Times reported. Adults were sponsoring multiple children and minors were working instead of attending school. Staff also became alarmed by how quickly they lost touch with migrant children's whereabouts within a month of releasing them to their sponsors. Once they were released, many migrant children, some are as young as 12, reportedly became indentured laborers. They were subjected to poor working conditions and grueling long hours in factories, fast food restaurants, hotels, construction sites, and other business establishments throughout the United States. The only way these children could seek help was to call an HHS hotline. Consequently, reports of human trafficking to the hotline increased by about 1,300% over the past 5 years. Up to 85,000 of these unaccompanied minors or their sponsors can't be contacted. That's just crazy. They have no idea of finding these people. And HHS Secretary Xavier Becerra is trying to blame Congress for the crisis. Quote, I have never heard that number of 85,000. I don't know where it comes from. And so I would say it doesn't sound at all to be realistic. And what we do is we try to follow up as best we can with these kids, he said. Congress has given us certain authorities, our authorities, in when we have found a suitable sponsor to place that child with. We try to do some follow up, but neither the child or the sponsor is actually obligated to follow up with us, he said. So make it an obligation then. I mean, it's not that hard. And Becerra isn't the only administration official passing the buck. Susan Rice, of course, who had just Susan Rice, I think she just resigned yesterday. But Susan Rice, who worked as Biden's domestic policy advisor, claims that no one ever told her of any problems. Of course not. So it's not your job. Isn't that your job to look into these things? You expect people to come tell you about problems, but quote, we were never informed of any kind of systematic problem with child labor or migrant child labor, she said. And that's a lie, as the whistleblower and other witnesses will testify before Judiciary Committee's subcommittee today. So I'm wondering, is that the reason why Susan Rice resigned, or is she planning on running for president, or what? Because I find it very suspicious that Susan Rice just happened to resign right before the judiciary testimony. But let me know what you think. Leave your comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe. And check out themarketpublics.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.